To determine the actual final height, well, we need to put that pickup in first. And that is what we're about to do. So this is the system we're installing. This is their microphone that actually sticks to the bridge plate on the underside of the bridge. There's our little volume control that sticks to the edge of the sound hole. And this goes through the tail block and then tightens down from the outside. Now, although this is sort of designed to use as a strap button, we're going to put a separate strap button below it, because these things, anyone who's got one of these things knows they're guaranteed to loosen up. I don't recommend that you use this for your strap. Just use it for your input jack. So I'll wind this back so we got enough length to go through the depth of the tail block. We'll do that first. So this slips off. There's your battery connector. So this little battery bag will Velcro to the edge of the head block. And we'll walk you through that as well. First thing is to get this guy in place. So let's do that. So what we have here is a 1/4-inch dowel that just happens to fit right in there like a 1/4-inch jack. And we're going to gently drop that stuff into the sound hole, feed our dowel through that hole that's already there in the tail block, and then just index that on to the input jack. So I just gently pull that through. Hopefully we got enough thread to get us through. We might need to open that up a little bit. That's a little tiny bit tight. 15-30 seconds is the right size for that. So you can see that bit goes right in there. So 15-30 seconds is a magic number, and it's already been bored out, but I'm just gonna just ease it open that little tiny bit. Alright, let's try that again. See if that does it for us. So I'm just slipping that 1/4-inch dowel into the input jack and pulling that through. Ah, that's better. Okay, so let me bring you in close here. So I've actually left that a little too long, so I've got to push this through and thread that bolt in this direction to pull this back so that this ledge is actually shy of the edge of the hole. So let's do that. Let's do that. So I'm just reaching in and just give that 3 or 4 turns and we'll check it again. Okay, let's give it another look. You know something? It's still a little proud, so we're gonna give it another couple of turns. One more time. There we go. Let's try that. Okay, I'm liking that. Next thing is this flat washer goes on, and it basically rests against the ledge of that 15-32 inch hole. So we follow that up with our nut and thread that into place. Snug that down. So the reason you've got that through board hole is it allows you to, I just stick an Allen key in there, and that allows you to kind of stop that from rotating as you snug down that nut. So there's our little trim washer, and that basically finishes it up. Now, as a final touch, I actually stuff a little piece of leather there in the jaws of the vice grips and just adjust that. You don't want to mar anything. And then I tighten it up, and that ends up being much tighter than what anyone could ever do with their fingers, and we don't leave any marks. Okay, so the next thing I'm doing, I'm installing this microphone that adheres to the underside of the bridge plate. So as you're reaching in there, I put those 2 center pins in. when I gently touch this outside diameter, I can find dead center between these two pins. Put a piece of masking tape over that just to hold them in place. Now this is a pretty good press fit, so it's not going to fall out. Okay, I am doing a quick dry run on this first and just kind of holding it up against those pins, find out where I am. Make sure we get that centered. That is centered. Okay, so I think we're good to go. Now that we know where we're sticking this thing, it's time to put it in the right place. Okay, so I've got those pins again. I can feel with my finger. I've indexed in between those pins, and now I'm moving it away towards the saddle, so it's kind of underneath the saddle, and pushing it into place, and that is going to do it. So I'm basically underneath the saddle with that pickup. Right, now that that microphone is installed, we're ready to install the under the saddle transducer. So let's do that. And like a lot of companies, I don't know if they've actually got that pre-drilled. They probably do because it's so common now. Yes, they do. They have it actually pre-drilled on both ends. Sort of keep your eye on those wires as you're going so that you don't get them all kind of tangled. Okay, so far so good. We're going to move this guy out of the way. That's our little volume control. And that is our battery. So okay, that looks good. So nothing's obstructed here. Okay, next step, and I check these wires as you go to make sure they're not all twisted together. So that looks like they're all nice and freed up. I'll tilt the guitar towards me like this, and usually if you find the sixth, I'm doing this for illustration, but there's the 6-string hole. Well, we've got to come just over from that. So just, sometimes if I need to, I'll stick a little Allen key in there just to kind of find my way. Okay, that's where we want to go. So we'll feed that up through, like so. And then we'll pull this back through and temporarily press fit our saddle into place. It'll settle over the course of a few hours. So now that that's kind of held in place, we've got the microphone in place. Now we'll continue with the installation of the volume control and the battery bag. You will find a bunch of these fold over, peel and stick wire retainer tabs in your little battery bag. These two wires, your control, which ends up sticking to the underside of the sound hole here, and your battery bag, they can share the same tab. So what I'm doing is I'm folding this over like so, and then I'm going to slide it along and see how much slack we've got. See how far we can reach with this. And that still leaves us enough slack to be able to put this in the proper location. So I'm going to peel that off and stick it into place. Again, it'll end up sticking in right about there. So everything's in place without any strain on any of the wires, on the pickup wires, on the volume control wires, or the battery bag wires. So next, I'm going to put another one of these tabs onto the battery terminal wire, and I'm going to stick that right about here. So that's how much slack that we've got, and you don't want this flopping around inside the guitar. So that's just enough to kind of get access to the battery and then adhere the battery to the corresponding Velcro inside. Next, I prefer to cut back about a ½ an inch off of this Velcro. So this has got a 3M adhesive there as well. I stick this not to the face of the head block, but to the top of the head block. And the reason I do that is then when you put your battery bag in there, you got gravity working in your favor, so that the battery bag and the weight of the battery sits on the edge of the head block instead of the face of the head block. A couple of reasons I do that. One is, on the face of the head block, of course, you got the serial number. And secondly, like I said, the weight of the battery now just rests on the edge of the head block, which is, you know, a huge block of mahogany. Let's get our battery bag and battery and install that. This is our little volume control, and this is the little 3M tab. You always want to check because it'll change from guitar to guitar. You want to make sure you got enough room for this thing and that you're not sitting up on a brace. There's just enough space right there. Keep it fairly discreet here, so we just have it so that it just barely shows, and just kind of hold it in place there for a couple of seconds. Now there is a strap that goes from the X brace to the head brace, so you got to make sure that you're not kind of sitting on that. So lastly, we got our Energizer battery. Now we can put the battery in. It just slips into this battery bag, like so. Closes with Velcro, and it sticks onto the edge of the head block. And that's it, the whole system is installed. That's where the pin for the actual strap button goes. So we scrape a little bit of paraffin wax on those threads, and so the idea here is your strap goes on here, and then your cord comes up and over, and then you plug in, so that the strap button acts as a strain relief. In the event that you step on the cord, which often happens, the actual input jack never gets the hit. So that's the reasoning behind that. I've put the original nut back in temporarily to get a read on the height of the action at the bridge. Now, it is quite a bit high, and that's good. I want to err on the side of caution. We've got lots of material to work with here. This needs to come down, but the crown of the bridge is already radiused and kind of pseudo-intonated because it's exactly the same scale as I mentioned earlier as the other guitar, same scale length, same string gauge, same tuning. Then I've kind of roughed it in, and I think I got it pretty close. Let me just give you another look at that other saddle. So that's the saddle on the J15, and I've used that as a template for this saddle on this guitar. If I'm taking anything off, and I do need to take something off, I need to lower it, well, it's got to come off the underside. So you can see there's quite a bit of space under here, and that's going to allow us to lower the action considerably. But what we have to be cautious of, this cantilever portion of the bridge that extends beyond the confines of the original slot, you got to be careful that that doesn't get hung up on the rosewood, otherwise your pickup won't work. So for now I'm just putting the 6th and 1st strings on just to get a read on the height. Once I'm kind of liking the height of the 1st and 6th string, then we'll put the rest of the strings on and we'll check the intonation. Okay, I did reduce that, and I can see right now that that center portion of the cantilever is hung up on the rosewood, so I'm going to just kiss that on that radius disc sander that we have in the drill press. Okay, I am just going to kiss this. Back to the guitar. So I've got the action pretty darn close to the finished height. It's still a little proud, but I want to have a little bit of real estate to play with to kind of micro tweak the intonation here at the saddle. Now, to make sure that we've got that saddle dead flat on the bottom, I've plugged the guitar in and dialed over to the bridge transducer only, and just I can hear both outside strings. Now that that's been determined, we'll put the middle 4 strings on and start the whole regulation and compensation process for the bridge saddle. So here we go, moment of truth. First round draft, just like in hockey. 7th fret and octave. And it's about 6 cents sharp. So here's our A string, 7th fret and octave. Yeah, it's about 7-8 cents sharp. Here's our 4th string, D string, 7th fret, and and octave. Ooh, that's pretty close. 2 cents right out of the gate. Here's our third string, 7th fret, and octave. Whew, doesn't get much closer than that. There's our B. Yeah, it's a good 6 cents sharp. First string. Again. Whew, 2 cents sharp. So that's not going to take much. So we're going to mark all the way across. I thought that while I have this out, we compare apples to apples here. Let me bring you in. So that's what we got. This is the J15 guitar, and we'll go back over to that J45 Vintage, install this, and see how close we are. Here's our 6th string, 5th string, 4th string, 3rd string, 2nd string, and 1st string. Now we can get on with the compensated nut. Okay, we have our nut blank fitted. So now we'll just use the original nut to get the spacing right. And the initial spacing has been done, and I've made that elliptical cut at the leading edge. Now we're going to sand it down a little further. Okay, this is where we're at right now with that compensated nut. I'm actually ready to map out the initial values. The neck is sort of upper chest level, and when I lean down, I can actually eye down that file, sight down the length of the file, and direct that string to the inside of its post. Let's try this one again. Okay, that one's good. I'll bring you around a second. You can see for yourself, or hear for yourself. B string, the same thing. It was just a hint flat. So, I've got a 16th thou here, and I'm just gonna, again, I can sight down the file and direct it right to the inside of its post. Again, careful of the face of the headstock. Let's try that. That's registering 1 cent flat. So I am going to just work it a little bit more. We've got plenty of real estate in the crown of that nut to work it down. So that's what I'm doing. Again. Okay, 12th fret. That's very close. Okay, last string. First string, same thing. Just chase it to that leading edge. There we go. And again, I can put that right up to chest level, directing it to the post, inside of that post. Try that. Okay, let me bring you around to the tuner. There's our fretted 12th fret on the 6th string, and open. There's our fretted 12th fret on the A string, open, and open. G string 12th fret, and open. That's good. That's a little sharp, so we're going to move it back a bit. So the first three are great right where they are. The G needs to move back a little. Let's check the B. B string 12th fret and open. First string 12th fret and open. Okay, the only discrepancy we have is the G needs to be cut back just a little tiny bit. Let's check that again. All right, take a look at this. Okay, now we're talking open string and first fret. We are done. So this last bit of work is all cosmetic. Boy, you don't want to blow it at this point after spending that much time on it. Just the bottom tip, I can feel that a little bit. We are going to soften all this, and I will sand that down so that those slots aren't quite so deep. So the top part of the nut is good. This portion here can come back a little bit. Yeah, it's just the bottom. The top is good, just this portion right here. Okay, you want to go nice and easy at this point. It's so close to being done. Of course, mahogany back and sides, mahogany neck with a walnut stain on it. And there's our banner headstock. This is J-45 compensated nut. Here's another view of it. And yet another view of it. And this is the compensated saddle on the J-45, and there is the compensated saddle on the J-15. Well, enough looking. Let's have a listen. I want to start off with a couple of questions that I need to address. One of my Patreon subscribers, as well as one of my YouTube subscribers, said, you know, if the strings are slightly higher on a compensated nut, does that make sort of playing an F bar chord, the most difficult chord on the guitar, does it make it harder to play it? The difference is so minute that I don't think anyone would ever notice. You know, I'm not death gripping this. There's your first position F chord, right? This is completely acoustic. I do have it plugged in, but I'm playing it acoustically first, so you can kind of hear it acoustically. Anyway, I have a progression that I've looped. I'm just going to play through it first. So this is a progression. It's in D major. So I've looped that, and I've got this plugged in, and I'll just let that play, and then play along with it. So here we go. So that same progression in the lower position.